Today we're going to talk about some different types of terms that you can use for scenes when reading Percy Jackson.
So we've already talked about scene changes before. And scene changes are going to be when Percy Jackson moves from one setting to a completely different setting, or one place to a completely different place. Sometimes scene changes can also happen when we're changing the time of day. So maybe Percy is in the daytime at first, and then it says later that evening, and it changes to the nighttime. So that's another type of scene change. Time matters also when we're looking at scene changes. The other problem I've noticed you guys have been having has been with conflict. So let's review conflict real quickly. So conflict in literature is the opposition of persons or forces that brings about the dramatic action central to the plot of the story. Conflict may be internal, as a psychological conflict within a character, or external. Examples of that are character versus character, character versus nature, or character versus society. So if I'm going to take that big definition and just make it really easy, conflict is the problem in the story. There are two categories of conflict: internal conflict and external conflict. For internal conflict, we have character versus self. For external conflict, we have character versus character, character versus nature, and character versus society. Now let's take a deeper look at internal conflict, character versus self. So let's look at our main character, Percy Jackson. If he's trying to make a decision, any sort of decision that's going to impact him, that would be character versus self, an internal conflict. If you've ever seen cartoons and you have an angel on the shoulder of a character and a devil on the other shoulder of the character, and they're trying to convince him or her to change their mind or make a decision, that would be a perfect example of character versus self. Now let's talk a little bit about conflict or external conflict. The first one we have is character versus character. Now, character versus character is when one character strongly disagrees with another character. And this disagreement can turn into a physical argument or fight, or it can also be a verbal argument or fight, where they're going against the same ideas. Now, in regards to external conflict, character versus nature, it's going to be when a character is physically going against nature. So they could have a storm and be running away or trying to survive a storm. Or maybe it's a tornado that they're trying to survive. Or maybe even it's a tsunami that they're trying to survive. But the thing is, they're trying to survive a natural disaster or physical element of Earth. So our last type of external conflict is going to be character versus society. It's a little harder to grasp. So maybe the character believes or thinks one thing, and his beliefs and his thoughts go against the world. Or they can even go against a town or a community. Or maybe he's going against a small group of people that believe exactly the opposite of him. He's going against a small society in his thoughts, beliefs, and sometimes even his actions reflect that. So for your chart, you're going to ask, what type of conflict is in this scene? What is the problem in this story? I even gave you a sentence stem. The sentence stem is, this is character versus blank because... And you will decide, is this character versus self? Does Percy have to make a decision? Is this character versus character? Is Percy having to fight someone or having a verbal argument with someone? Is this character versus nature? Is Percy trying to survive against a storm? Or is this character versus society? Is he going against the beliefs of a group of large people? Finally, there's the because part of the sentence stem. And you're going to tell me what you saw in the chapter that made you pick this type of conflict.